soaking nuts and seeds has become one of those habits that almost everyone in the health world recommends. You've probably heard that it helps improve digestion, reduces anti-nutrients, and allows your body to absorb more vitamins and minerals. It sounds simple. Just put your almonds, walnuts, or seeds in water, leave them for a few hours, and suddenly they become even healthier. But here's something most people don't realize. Soaking nuts and seeds the wrong way can actually reduce their benefits, and in some cases, even make them harder for your body to digest. That might sound surprising, because soaking is supposed to be a health upgrade, not something that could backfire. But the truth is, many people follow this habit without really understanding how it works. And when you don't understand the process, it's very easy to make small mistakes that completely change the outcome. Maybe you've been soaking nuts overnight and assuming longer is better. Maybe you reuse the soaking water without rinsing. Or maybe you treat all nuts and seeds the same, thinking they all respond the same way to soaking. If any of that sounds familiar, you're definitely not alone. The truth is, soaking can be incredibly powerful, but only when it's done correctly. And today, we're going to uncover what most people are getting wrong. In this video, you'll discover the 5 biggest mistakes people make when soaking nuts and seeds, and how to fix them so your body can actually absorb the nutrients and get the full benefits. Let's break it down. Now here's where things start to get a little more eye-opening, because most people assume soaking is such a simple process that there's no real way to get it wrong. You just add water and wait. But in reality, there are a few very common mistakes that can completely change the outcome, and most people don't even realize they're making them. The first mistake is soaking for too long. A lot of people believe that the longer you soak nuts and seeds, the better the results, so they leave them in water overnight, sometimes even longer, thinking they're maximizing the benefits. But this can actually work against you. When soaking goes on for too long, nutrients can begin to leach out into the water, and the texture of the nuts can become overly soft or unpleasant. In some cases, it can even start to affect the taste. The second mistake is not rinsing after soaking. During the soaking process, some compounds like phytates and enzyme inhibitors are released into the water. That's part of the benefit of soaking. It helps reduce these compounds. But if you don't rinse the nuts or seeds afterward, you're essentially reintroducing those same compounds back into your body. It's a small step, but skipping it can completely cancel out part of the benefit. The third mistake is treating all nuts and seeds the same. This is incredibly common. People use one soaking method for everything: almonds, walnuts, chia seeds, pumpkin seeds, assuming they all respond the same way. But each type has a different structure and requires a different soaking time. Using a one-size-fits-all approach can lead to under-soaking some foods and over-soaking others. The fourth mistake is soaking in poor conditions. For example, leaving nuts in warm environments for too long or using unclean containers. This creates the perfect environment for unwanted bacterial growth. What started as a healthy habit can quickly become something that affects both taste and safety. And finally, the fifth mistake is expecting soaking to fix everything. Some people believe that once they soak nuts and seeds, they automatically become perfect for digestion and nutrition. But soaking is just one step. If other habits, like portion control or food pairing, are ignored, the results may still fall short. Individually, these mistakes might seem small, but together they can completely change how effective soaking really is, and that's why so many people never experience the full benefits. To really understand why these mistakes matter, we need to take a closer look at what soaking actually does inside your body and at a biological level within the nuts and seeds themselves. Because once you understand the process, those small details we just talked about start to make a lot more sense. Nuts and seeds naturally contain compounds called phytates and enzyme inhibitors. These compounds exist for a reason. They protect the seed in nature and prevent it from sprouting too early. But when we eat them, these same compounds can interfere with digestion and bind to important minerals like zinc, iron, and calcium, making them harder for your body to absorb. This is where soaking comes in. When you soak nuts and seeds in water, you're essentially activating them. Water signals the seed that it's time to begin the early stages of germination. This process helps break down enzyme inhibitors and reduces phytates, making nutrients more accessible. At the same time, enzymes within the seed become more active, which can support better digestion once you eat them. But here's the key detail. Those compounds don't just disappear. They are released into the soaking water. That's why rinsing becomes so important. If you skip that step, you're consuming the very substances you were trying to reduce in the first place. Now let's talk about soaking time. Each type of nut or seed has a different structure. Almonds, for example, have a firmer outer layer and typically require longer soaking times. Softer seeds, on the other hand, need much less time. When you soak something for too long, you're not just removing unwanted compounds. You may also start losing beneficial nutrients into the water. In addition, the texture can break down too much, making them less enjoyable and sometimes harder to digest. Temperature also plays a role. Soaking in a cool, controlled environment helps maintain stability. But when nuts and seeds are left in warm conditions for extended periods, especially in standing water, it creates an environment where bacteria can begin to grow. This doesn't just affect taste. It can also impact safety and digestion. Another important factor is oxygen exposure. When nuts are soaked for extended periods and then left sitting, oxidation can begin to occur, especially with their healthy fats. This can slightly reduce their nutritional quality over time. Then there's the idea of overestimating what soaking can do. Soaking improves digestibility and nutrient availability, but it doesn't transform nuts and seeds into something completely different. If you're still overeating them, not chewing properly, or not combining them with balanced meals, the overall benefits may still be limited. And finally, there's the role of your body. Even when nuts and seeds are soaked perfectly, your digestive system still needs time to adapt, especially if you're increasing your intake of fiber and fats. Soaking helps, but it works best as part of a bigger picture of healthy eating habits. When you look at all of this together, it becomes clear that soaking is not just about putting food in water. It's a process that involves timing, preparation, and understanding how your body interacts with what you eat. Small details, but they make a big difference in the final result. Now that you understand what's really happening during the soaking process, the good news is that fixing these mistakes is actually very simple. You don't need complicated tools or advanced techniques. Just a few small adjustments can completely change how your body responds to soaked nuts and seeds and allow you to finally get the benefits you're looking for. The first step is to follow the correct soaking time for each type of nut or seed. This is one of the most important changes you can make. For example, almonds typically need around 8 to 12 hours, while softer seeds like chia or flax require much less time. Instead of guessing, it helps to be intentional. When you soak for the right amount of time, not too short and not too long, you allow the process to work properly without losing nutrients. The second step is to always rinse thoroughly after soaking. This is a simple habit, but it makes a big difference. Remember, soaking releases phytates and other compounds into the water. If you don't rinse, you're essentially undoing part of the benefit. A quick rinse under clean water is enough to remove what's been released and leave you with a cleaner, more digestible food. Next, use clean water and proper containers. This might seem obvious, but it's often overlooked. Always use fresh, filtered water if possible, and make sure your container is clean. Glass bowls or jars are usually the best option. This helps prevent contamination and keeps the soaking process safe and effective. Another important habit is paying attention to your environment. Try to soak nuts and seeds in a cool, stable place rather than a warm area like near a stove. If you're soaking for longer periods, you can even place them in the refrigerator. This helps reduce the risk of unwanted bacterial growth and keeps the texture and quality intact. Storage is also key. If you're not eating your soaked nuts or seeds immediately, don't just leave them sitting out. Drain them well and store them in the refrigerator in an airtight container. This helps maintain freshness and prevents spoilage. And finally, remember that soaking is just one part of a bigger picture. Combine it with other good habits, like eating appropriate portions, chewing thoroughly, and pairing nuts and seeds with balanced meals. When you do this, soaking becomes much more effective. When you bring all of these steps together, proper timing, rinsing, clean conditions, careful storage, and balanced eating, you transform soaking from a simple habit into something that truly supports your digestion and overall health. So when you take a step back and look at everything we've covered, it really comes down to this. Soaking nuts and seeds is not just a trendy health habit. It can be a powerful tool for improving digestion and nutrient absorption, but only if it's done the right way. When you avoid these 5 common mistakes, soaking for too long, skipping the rinse, treating all nuts the same, using poor conditions, and expecting soaking to fix everything, you give your body a real chance to benefit from what you're eating. Better digestion, improved nutrient availability, and a more comfortable, balanced experience overall. Now I want to hear from you. Which of these mistakes have you been making without even realizing it? Let me know in the comments below, because your experience might help someone else too. If you found this helpful, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more simple, science-based nutrition tips that you can actually apply in your daily life. And if you want to go deeper, check out the next video on your screen where we break down the best way to eat nuts and seeds for maximum benefits. I'll see you there.